Welcome back, guys. So far we've talked about the movement tool and the resizing tool, and we spoke about the layout tool, which we use to create different screen sizes, different sessions. We talk about slicing, like cropping out a part of your design. So that's what slice is used for. So right now we're going to come back to the shape tool. So now we're going to talk about the shape tool in general. So let me zoom this to fit back, and let me try to give. As you could see, we have the design frames right here. We talked about the design frames, and the next thing we want to talk about, I'm going to create a new page for that. So I'm going to talk about the shape tool. So let's say this will be the shape tool. So I created a new page for that. So this will be the shape tool. So coming to the shape tool, I'm just showing you the basic tools that we're going to use to design the mobile app and the website. This is just for beginners purpose. If you're not a beginner, you don't need to go through all this, but if you're a beginner, you have to go through all this so that you could know what each tools means, what you're going to use each tool for. So right now we have the shape tool. I want to talk about the shape tool right now. So in the shape tool, let's talk about them individually. So coming to the shape tools right here, we have the rectangle. Of course, you've seen me use it before. So most designs are always made up of shapes. We've talked about making designs and making different elements of designs. So all the elements you see in a design are all in the shape tool. So they are made of shape tools. So let's say this is a rectangle, yes, and we have the line, so you could draw the line with that, and we have the arrow, so you could draw an arrow with that. Have you ever seen an arrow in a design? That's where it's gotten from. So we could draw an ellipse with this. So this is an ellipse, and here we have it, so I could move this around. So I have an ellipse right here, so you could draw an ellipse with that. So we have polygon, so you could draw a polygon with this. Polygon are your rectangles and the likes. So yeah, we could draw a polygon with that. So we have the stars, so you could draw the stars as well. You could draw the stars as well, as you could see. Then we have the image, so you could bring in an image from your device. So here we have image, so I could decide to bring an image from my device easily. So all I have to do is click on the image I want to bring in. So that too is categorized under shape. So here's the image. All I have to do is to drop the image right here, and I just dropped the image, but it is way too bigger. So all I have to do is to reduce it, and you could actually do that reduction. So that's what this is all about. So we have the image tool right there, so you could see that is it. So we have the image tool as well that could be moved around. So basically that's what the shape tool is made up of. But when you click on the shape tool, did you notice anything? Every shape you click on means something. So let me just do something. Let me go back this way. Let me delete that slice. So coming back here, look at me clicking on the rectangle. Having to click on this rectangle. From this you'll see design and prototype. What you need right now is design. So let's talk about design. So right now this is the rectangle design. Everything you need to know about your rectangle is right here. So the x and y position is the direction, like where the rectangle is placed. When you move it up, you see the values changes. So let's say you see that the value is changing. So we have the x coordinates, this is the y coordinates, and this is the s coordinates. So when you go up, when you go up and down, the y coordinate changes, but when you go sideways, the s coordinate changes. So that's what it basically means. So that's the position where the rectangle is placed. And when you see transform has different like features. This rotation, if you want to rotate the rectangle, you could rotate it 90-degree and it's going to be rotated. So you could rotate it 90-degree, you could choose to rotate it 145-degree, and you see this has been rotated, and from rectangle it turns to another shape, as you can see right here. What shape is this? As you can see, this has turned to another shape right now. So you could actually go on and on right there to create different shapes with this. So I just rotated the rectangle and it gave us this at 145. So I'll go back to 0-degree and it comes back to normal. Then you could go ahead to see more things you could do. You could see from here you could actually rotate to 90-degree, and from here you could flip whatever you are doing, the shape, you could flip it. So this has been flipped. You could flip it horizontally or vertically. So that's what it means. And this is flipping vertically and this is flipping horizontally. Don't worry, you see the use cases later on when we start designing. And here in the layout, you see your dimension which has the width and height. That's what this means. So the width currently is 242. So let's say we want to create a perfect square. All we have to do is to change the width to 241 and the height to 241. Then we're going to have a perfect square. So this is a square right now because the width and height are the same. So you could just turn this on to make sure when you are resizing, it doesn't go. For instance, when you are trying to resize, it goes bizarre. But if you want to make it go the way you want it to make it go, since we have equal width and equal height, so this is where you're going to turn it on. Once you turn that on, when you're trying to resize, it resizes everything together. So that's what this means. So this is just a layout feature. So let's go ahead. Since we've done the dimensions, let's talk about the appearance. So the appearance of your rectangle right here will be shown here. So you could reduce the opacity, that's the transparency. You could choose to reduce that, and you could choose to reduce it to like a 4%. As you could see, we could not see the color again, and you could choose to reduce it to like a let's say you could choose to use it to like a 50 percentage. So you see, as you could see, the color changes. So that's the opacity, and the corner radius is you adding a corner radius. Like you could do it from here actually, but right here you could give it different values. You could say a 10. When you say a 10, it changes the radius, and when you try to say a 50, so it changes the radius. As you could see, the corner radius is right there. So if you want to do for all corners, you choose there, but if you want to do for different corners, you choose here. So you could do 50 for a corner, and another one you could say 0. So the corner that you just chose would not have that radius. So that's what it means right now. So this is that for that, and you could go back to your opacity to change that to 100. So take it back to 100, and it brings back the normal color. So that's what that is. And right here, the fill is the color. So you could change the color of the rectangle. You could choose to change to like a red. You could choose to change to any color you want to change to. So I just change it to a red right now, and that's what that is. So we're going to talk more about all these functions, but I'm just showing you that for every element you click, this panel changes and it all means something. So if you want to add an outline to your rectangle, you just click on the stroke. So you're going to add a stroke, and having to add a stroke right now gives it an outline. So let's change the outline to like a white, so you could see what I'm saying. As you could see, there is a white outline around this, and you could choose to increase the weight of the stroke. So you could say a 30, then you see the weight very well. Then we could say a 10, so you could see the weight. So that's what an outline is, and that's what the stroke function is there for. So you could do more customizations to the stroke function. We're going to talk about that more when we start designing. So you go to effects, you could add effects to whatever element. So every function for each element will be dropped here. So you could change from a drop shadow to a layer blur, and from a layer blur you could change to a background blur, change to inner shadow. So this you will not be able to see it right now because we are having, all you have to do is just to like, maybe you could try to create a session, and having to try to create a session, you're going to give all this a session right now, and maybe you can just give this a white color. So this is a session right now, so you could give this session like a, okay, let's give it like a yellow color or something like this. Let's give it something like this so that we will see the effect. So coming back here to the rectangle, I could work on the effect. So let me just take this around. So I could work on the effect. All I have to do is to add effect, and you could see this is a drop shadow. You could see your layer blur, you see your drop shadow, and you could work on the drop shadow right now. As you could see, you could do some settings to it, and that's what it is about. I chose this, but let me choose this to work on the shadow. So all I have to do is to say drop shadow, and you're going to see it right there. So you could do more customization to the drop shadow to see what you just did. So you could say spread, you could say like a 5. So when you spread it, you'll be able to see the shadows right now. So that's the effect. All you have to do is to click on an element, and you can customize it from here. Then you could choose to export it right now, and you preview what you want to export. So I'm clicking on this right now, so I'm exporting this. When you export this, you're going to be able to export just the rectangle alone. So basically that's how to work on each element of of the shapes that you are choosing. So when you choose this, you see that all these changes, you have the alignment takes it to whatever you want to make it to be. So you could bring it to the middle, you could take it to the side, you could take it up, you could take it to the middle, you could take it down. So that's what this means. They are just alignment. This has it as well. This rectangle has it as well. So you could choose to bring it to the middle, it comes to the middle, and that's what it is. So for every shape has their own customization, the transform, the dimension, the appearance. So everything has their own customization. Once you click on an element, it changes here. The customization changes here, which we are going to still talk about. I just want you to take note of that function on this dashboard. I hope to see you in the next lesson where we'll get to talk more about the toolbars. I hope to see you in the next lesson. See you there.